Hi friends, I'm Shankar Pandey and this is the Dr. USP channel. Phenomenology as a research seeks to understand the nature of things by how people experience them. For example, take the phenomenon of binge watching on OTT platforms for example. We first recruit a small heterogeneous group of people who binge watch on OTT platforms. Through open-ended questions and other means, we try to find out what is the essence of their experience of binge watching on OTT platforms. Let us see what is phenomenological research in this video. Apart from open-ended questions, there are other data collection tools, focus group discussions, or observation method, or even documents or texts that people produce regarding their experience of the phenomenon.
In phenomenological research, the researcher uses bracketing, which is the setting aside of one's own beliefs and prior assumptions. Phenomenological research is a qualitative research method that aims to describe, interpret, and understand the meaning of experiences about a certain phenomenon from the perspective of those who have experienced it. Phenomenologists focus on describing what all participants have in common as they experience a phenomenon, for example, grief or binge watching. The goal of phenomenological research is to understand the essence of the experience. Instead of seeking to answer what causes X, one should ask what is it like to experience X. Phenomenology considers the entirety of human experience, including thoughts, feelings, perceptions, and actions in a specific context. It offers a holistic understanding of the phenomenon under study. Phenomenology is not about generating generalizable findings, but about gaining a deep understanding of a particular experience. Therefore, the aim is to provide a rich, detailed account that fully captures the complexity of this experience. People's lived experiences are often nuanced, influenced by various internal and external factors, and phenomenology helps capture this richness. The word phenomenology comes from the Greek words phenomenon, that which appears, and logos, study. It is essentially the study of phenomena as they present themselves to consciousness. Phenomenology focuses on subjective aspects of human experience, the what it is like aspect of experience. Phenomenological studies can give rise to new theories or hypotheses. Qualitative researchers first identify a phenomenon, an object of human experience. This human experience may be a phenomenon such as insomnia, being left out, anger, grief, or undergoing surgery, for example. The researcher then collects data from persons who have experienced the phenomenon and develops a composite description of the essence of the experience for all of the individuals. A researcher might study the experience of watching a violent movie to understand how it affects viewers' emotions and beliefs. A researcher might study the experience of being a victim of cyberbullying to understand how it affects victims' mental health and social relationships. A researcher might study the experience of living in a war zone to understand how it affects people's sense of identity and security. Phenomenology has a rich philosophical tradition, and our research is likely to be grounded in one of its two main types: descriptive, which is Husserlian, or interpretive, which is Heideggerian. The descriptive type seeks to describe the lived experience of individuals without interpretation, while the interpretive seeks to interpret these experiences within the context of the larger world. Phenomenological research begins with an emphasis on a phenomenon to be explored, phrased in terms of a single concept or idea, such as the psychological concept of grief, or the health idea of a caring relationship. In media and communication, this could be the experience of binge watching OTT or the use of social media in a political campaign. This is followed by exploration of this phenomenon with a group of individuals who have all experienced the phenomenon. Thus, a heterogeneous group is identified that may vary in size from 3 to 4 individuals to 10 to 15. Purposeful sampling is used where we select individuals based on their experience with the phenomena. The participants are asked two broad general questions. What have you experienced in terms of the phenomenon? What contexts or situations have typically influenced or affected your experiences of the phenomenon? Other open-ended questions may also be asked, but these two specially focus attention on gathering important data. In-depth interviews are often the main source of data in phenomenological research, but you could also use focus groups, personal texts, diary entries, blog posts, etc. This data will lead to a textual and structural description of the experiences and ultimately provide an understanding of the common experiences of the participants. Phenomenological data analysis involves the process of reading, rereading, and reflecting on the data to understand the essence of the experience. This usually involves steps like bracketing, which is setting aside your own experiences, assumptions, and beliefs about the phenomenon. Horizontalization, which is about treating every statement from your participants as having equal value. Then we have clustering of themes, which is identifying patterns in the data and grouping related themes together. We then have the textual description, which is writing a description of what the participants experienced. Then there is a structural description, which is writing a description of how the phenomenon was experienced, considering the context or setting that influenced the experience. There's then the synthesis of meanings and essences. It combines the textual and structural descriptions to convey an overall essence of the experience. In the write-up, we include detailed descriptions of the participants' experiences contextualized by our own interpretations. It is important to provide enough detail to understand the essence of the phenomenon. The practice of phenomenological inquiry is inseparable from the practice of writing. Let's break down the steps involved in conducting phenomenological research in the field of media and communication, using the example of studying the phenomenon of binge watching web series. Possible research questions might include: what is the lived experience of daily OTT watching? Or how does the audience perceive and interpret the role of OTT platforms in their lives? The theoretical framework might draw on phenomenology itself and on theories related to media consumption, audience studies, and the socio-cultural effects of media. For example, they may refer to the uses and gratifications theory, which is a common approach in media studies that seeks to understand why and how people actively seek out specific media to satisfy specific needs. We collect data through interviews, focus groups, or written surveys. In phenomenological research, it is important to collect data that is as close to the participants' lived experiences as possible. This means that you should avoid asking leading questions or asking participants to interpret their experiences. Instead, you should focus on asking participants to describe their experiences in their own words. Data analysis involves identifying the common themes and patterns in the participants' experiences. We need to identify the essence of the phenomenon, which is the central meaning or core experience that is shared by all of the participants. Phenomenological research is analyzed using a process called bracketing. This involves suspending the researcher's own beliefs and assumptions. The significant statements and themes that are identified are then used to write a description of what the participants experienced, which is the textural description. From the structural and textural descriptions, the researcher then writes a composite description that presents the essence of the phenomenon, called the essential invariant structure. This suggests that all experiences have an underlying structure. A general writing structure includes an introduction to familiarize the reader with the phenomenon, research procedures to provide a rationale for the use of phenomenology, and philosophical assumptions and details about data collection and analysis. It is followed by a report of how the phenomenon was experienced with significant statements and a conclusion which includes the essence.
Thanks for staying along, friends. As always, it was a delight having you here. I'll be back with another video very soon. Till then, have a great time.